Hello everybody, just going to go through the game of TerraClash and how to play it. So about A5 sized box, bit of depth to it. So inside you'll find the rule book, very helpful. Got the various tokens, so you've got Terra coins, the green ones, which you collect to win the game by defeating creatures and also can be used in trade. You've got ailments, so you've got cold, burn, berserk and poison, so they all do various things which I'll run through later. We've got the durability tokens in there to count your character's durability down when you're getting attacked, and then we've also got markers as well to mark your abilities as you unlock them. So we've also got the dice here, so you've got 5 wound dice which are used in combat by your players and the creatures, which measures how many hits you take. So you've got 0 which misses, and then 1s and 2s. So on a critical these get doubled, but we'll talk about that later. You've got D20 durability dice, the pink ones. So these are used to mark the creature's durability in combat. You've got a green D6 action die, which is used to determine various outcomes throughout the game and for also rolling your action die in combat to see if you beat defense. And then we've got skill dice as well as your D3s, so they're used as counters. You start with 3 and they measure your skills as you use them, and they can be restored. We'll go into that in greater detail later. So as well as the dice, we've got the cards which determine how the game plays. So we've got yellow skill cards which contain the well rested card, which we'll go into later, and the skills used for your characters. Also in there are your biome cards for the Terra card play, so they determine the rules for each player's go. Then you've got item cards, so these are what you collect throughout the game as rewards from beating creatures or buying them at a shop in a settlement or trading with other players or picking them up in the wild. So there's spells, weapons, accessories and shields in there. And of course creature cards, which determine the creatures you encounter in combat. Then in the core game you've got a nice playing board where you can put the cards on top as you play, and then you've got the turn flow on there, which has a helpful flow chart to quickly guide you through the rules. It flows on to combat as well. Also got a quick play guide, handy key with all the icons in the game. Then we've got the core of the game itself, which is the 8 character cards. So you can choose to play as one of these. They all have their unique abilities and skills. So yeah, on there you've got your stats on the top left. So that one with the one next to the staff, that's your spell. So that determines how many spell cards you can equip. You got the sword as well, so that shows how many wound dice you can roll. So those ones with the 0s, the 1s and the 2s on. So the warrior can roll 2 of those if landing a successful attack roll. You've got your defense, so a creature or other player has to match that to then go on to roll the wound dice against you. You got your ailment markers, so if there's a cross on one of these, that means that character or creature is immune. You've also got your bonus here, so when you draw a Terra card, there's icons on them to symbolise what type of card that is. So this character receives a buff to the stats above here when on those Terra cards by 1. And then you've got your durability counter here, so you place your durability token on there, and then you count down as you get hit by creatures or other players. And then when you reach the skull, you're incapacitated. On the right, you've got your starting passive skill, so this is unlocked from the start. And then you've got 3 more abilities here. So these numbers 2, 3 and 4 signify how many Terra coins you need to get to unlock them. Once you've unlocked them, you put your ability token on there, the blue one I showed you before, and that then shows you've unlocked that, because if you lose Terra coins, you don't lose your abilities. And then you've got your relic weapon here, so if you find your relic weapon, in this case the ancient short sword, in the game and equip it, you also get another ability from that. So to start the game, we've separated our decks out, ready for shuffling. So the first thing we need to go through is go through the item deck, and we need to remove any relic weapons. So there's 7 in total. So if we remove them from the deck when the items are drawn at the start of the game, players don't get an unfair advantage by accidentally drawing their relic weapon. So they're just the cards with the yellow R at the top. So we remove them, and then we shuffle the item deck. Then with the skill deck, we need to remove the well rested cards. So these ones here, so they're not applicable at the start of the game. So we shuffle the creature cards, the Terra cards and the item cards, and then the skill cards are used as a selection at the start of the game. So after we've chosen our hero, we want to select 1 skill card to go with our character. So each skill card has a preferred character type, but you're not restricted to that, so you can mix up different abilities with different characters. In this case, Golem Knight is suited to the warrior. Yeah, it makes it quite even more tanky. So there's numbers on each skill, so these show how many skill points it costs to cast. So there's skill worth 1 point, 2 worth 2 and 1 worth 3. So this is where those skill dice come in. So yeah, we start on 3. So if we were to use Stone Skin, that would put us down to 1. Then we could only use Rolling Stone. Or if we use Rockwool from the start, then that's your skill points gone. But they can be recovered by resting in the wilds by 1, or getting a full rest at the inn in a settlement, which puts it up to 3 again. So this is what a player's starting setup should look like. So we've got our skill card down with our skill point counter there. We've got our ability marker. So at the minute it's just on the passive ability, but that will move down as we unlock Terra coins. Speaking of Terra coins, here they are. So the objective is to get 8 of these, and then you can ascend to defeat the champion, or in solo that'll be a creature. We'll talk about that later. So I've just got out the 8 for this demonstration, because that's how much we'd need to collect to get the objective. So the more we gain of these from beating creatures, then we'd come. So if we got 2 Terra coins, then we'd unlock Stagger. 3, we'd unlock Steel Skin. And then down here we've got our ailments ready to put on. These also apply to creatures too. So if I got burn, for example, which causes me damage on fail rolls, then I'd apply that. And that's the tokens in a nutshell, really. So with all the relic cards removed, each player gets dealt 3 items. So in this case, we've got a spell, the Magic Missile. We've got a consumable, the Tincture, which restores durability. And then we've got a equipable weapon, the Short Sword. So how the inventory works is you get 5 slots in your inventory where you can store items. Consumables always go in your inventory, so that takes up 1 out of 5 slots there. And then your short sword, your weapons, so you get 2 hands. So you have a hand for the weapons, and each card shows you how many hands it takes up. So if this was a 2-handed weapon, you can only equip that and not a shield, but with this I could equip a shield as well, as long as it had 1 hand. So I'm going to equip the warrior with the short sword, and that gives me +1 wound dice, so 3 wound dice to roll in total. And then we've also got the spell here, so the spell number here is the capacity it takes up in the character's spell equipable part of the inventory. So we've only got 1 capacity, so we could only equip this. We wouldn't be able to equip any more spells. And also the warrior can't equip any 2 capacity spells. Alternatively, we can store that in the inventory, but that also takes up the item capacity. So in this case, it would be 2 capacity out of 5. But for demonstration purposes, we'll equip the spell there. So it's also got these uses on. So this shows how many times you can use a spell. So in battle, if you use it, that'd be 1. So you can tap that and do it like that until you use all the spells up. There you can restore spell uses, and yeah, each of these cards have got special rules on as well. So once everyone's picked their characters and their skill cards and has been dealt their items, you can place the relics back into the item deck and shuffle. And then on the board in the centre of the table, you can place all the cards you need ready to start the turns. And then if you keep the well-rested cards somewhere handy, so you can use them at certain points in the game. So if you choose who to start the game and then to proceed on their turn, they draw a Terra card. So this defines the rules of play. So in this case, if you roll a 6 with the action die during your encounter, draw 3 item cards from the item deck. If you roll a 1, draw 3 creature cards. So that's a modifier of the standard rule. So every time you draw a Terra card, unless it's a settlement, you roll for the encounter. So you roll the d6 for an encounter. So if I rolled a 1 in normal circumstances, I would draw 2 creature cards. If it was a 2, a 3 or a 4, you'd draw 1 creature card. If you get a 5, you draw 1 item card from the item deck and you'll go finishes. Or if you roll a 6, you draw 2 items from the item deck and you'll go finishes, but you can also rest as well, which we'll talk about later on. So I'm gonna roll the d6 to determine what happens here. Remember, there's those special rules in play. So I rolled a 6 in this instance. So according to the abandoned tower, I draw a 3. So I draw 3 cards from the item deck. So I've got an accessory, I've got a relic weapon, but it's not for my character, but they're still quite powerful. And I got a spell. So in regards to my character, the spell, I can't equip that because I've already got a magic missile equipped. So because I'm not in combat, I can manage my inventory at the end of a go, and also at the start of a go. So I can put the spell in my inventory here, so I take 2 out of 5. The cursed staff, I'm going to put that there in the inventory. I'm going to keep my short sword equipped. But if I did equip that, I would get 1 more spell slot, so I could put the school spell in with my spells also that are equipped. But because I haven't got a full inventory, I don't need to worry about that at the minute. And then I've also got an accessory, so you get head and body accessories. This is a body, and you can equip 1 body accessory and 1 head accessory. So I'm going to equip that. So yeah, that's picking items from the deck and managing your inventory. Because I rolled a critical 6, I can also have a rest as well. So if I was damaged from previous combat in another go, say I'm down to 6, then I would roll the d6, and that will determine how many durability points I'd restore. So in that case, 1. If I rolled a 6, then it would be full. But other than that, you can rest in an inn in the towns, but that costs either an item or a Terra coin. It does give you a full rest, or you can rest instead of rolling the action die on your go. So instead of rolling for an encounter, I can say, yeah, I'd like to roll for a rest. Then you finish your go, and that gives you durability, but it can also put you at disadvantage because you've used your go to rest instead of fighting a creature, for example. So say I rolled a 2 on that go instead of the 6, I would have to draw a creature card. In this case, I've rolled a grass tiger, so they got their own special rules there. They've got their ailments as well, so if there's a cross on there, they are immune to it. It's got the Terra coin level, so if I beat this creature, I get 1. It's a treasure. If it's a 2, you get 2 Terra coins, 3 Terra coins, which is the top level. I also get to draw an item as well. If I'm victorious here, and here is the Terra icon. So if that matched up to whatever Terra icons on the Terra card, then that creature would get a +1 buff to its wound, +1 buff to its defense, and it's also got 6 durability, which we track with the D20 there. So combat itself is pretty simple. You just follow the rules on the creature card. You look at your abilities and make sure you're using them. you look at any card rules, see what's equipped, what spells do. Consumables, they will have their own rules on as well, and also uses like spells. So the creature usually starts each time in combat. So if there's 2 creatures, they go before you. If it's like 2 versus 2 players, then roll the d6 to determine between you which one that creature attacks. So yeah, the creature goes first. So I look at the rule. The creature gets 2 turns if I fail my attack roll against it. So that will be on my go. But basically, the creature will roll a d6 to try and beat your defense. I haven't got any shields equipped, but I can nullify critical attacks as well. So the grass tiger needs to roll a 3 or more to hit me, and then it rolls a 5. And then because it's got 2 wound die on there, I roll 2 wound die, so 3 in total. If that was a critical, that would be a 6. But so we get 1, 2, 3, and then it goes on to my go. So with spells and items, it will say if you use that instead of attacking, but in most cases, if it doesn't say anything, use an addition. So I'm going to use my tincture for 1 use, and then I'm going to heal up to full. So I can do various things here as well with spells or my skills. So I could use one of these if I wanted to, but because it's quite a weak enemy, I'm not going to waste that. So I'm just going to roll a normal attack. So I need to beat 2 defense on the grass tiger. So 5. So I'm just going to roll for a normal attack. So I just need to roll to beat 2 on the defense, or match. I roll a 4, and because I succeed on my attack, the grass tiger doesn't get 2 goes on this next round. And then so I add 2 wound here, base stat, to my short sword. So I roll 3, so I damage for 3, sorry. So that does 3 damage on the tiger, and then that continues play. So now would be the grass tiger's go. So hits for a 5. So again, that's 2. And that's 3 damage again to me. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to use magic missile on my go. So when casting combat, roll the action die and inflict damage to opponents equivalent to the total. You may split damage between opponents in Nor's defense. So I ignore defense, so I don't have to go through rolling the action die to do that. But I do roll the action die for damage. So 2, that puts that down to 1. And then go for the grass tiger. Hits for a 4. Misses. And if I use my tincture, so 1 more use on that, get up to 3. And then I'm going to roll. So attack. So 5, and then the 3, so 2 damage. So that's defeated the grass tiger. So if you defeat a creature, then it goes in the graveyard. If you don't, then it goes back into the deck. And then yeah, you carry on, play from there. So in the case of you being a bit overwhelmed, you can ask for allies, so you can ask other players to join in, and you can haggle whether they get the item or the Terra coin, or both if you're that desperate. Or you can flee as well. So if I was to flee, say I was on 1 durability, I'd roll a d6 to determine if I flee. If it's a 1, I fail. If it's a 2 or 3, I can shed items, so I can take the capacity of an item. If it's 1, I get 2, I get up to 3, and then you have to get to 4 to flee on your action die. A 6, I would flee that, and then your go ends there. The creature goes back into the deck and shuffle. Then after each go, you put your Terra card back in and shuffle it for the next player. And that's the basics of the game, really. And the other important thing to know is if you go to a settlement on your turn instead of a wild Terra card. So if I was at the town, then you can choose from these actions. So you can purchase items. So you look at the top 5 item cards in the deck, and then you can choose which ones to trade an item for, or Terra coins. Tavern, you can indulge in player versus player combat and wager items and Terra coins for that. Or an inn, you can get a full rest. So that would give you those full rest cards we looked at earlier. So if you got that, you would put your durability up to 15. But yeah, you don't get in combat in a settlement, and then your go finishes. So yeah, it would go on to the next player, and then once it's been round all the players in a round, the next player to your left starts the next round. So it's a bit like poker where you shift along. But yeah, it seems quite simple to play and set up, but there's so many cards in here, so many different creatures, so many ways to stitch each other up. Between each round you can trade with each other as well. Yeah, so let us know what you think, and good luck.